Hello everyone. I am Muslim Sasyam from Lahore, Pakistan, and I'm joined by Dr. Shafey Kidwai from Aligarh Muslim University, Uttar Pradesh, India, to discuss his book Syed Ahmad Khan, Reason, Religion and Nation. Dr. Shafey Kidwai is an Indian author, journalist, professor, and bilingual critic. He frequently writes for the Hindustan Times, Indian Express, and Frontline. Thank you so much, Dr. Shafey Kidwai, for joining me.
Thank you very much for your nice introduction.
My first question to you is what motivated you to undertake the task of writing a book on Sir Syed Ahmad Khan? And how does your research challenge the existing prevailing academic narratives on Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, particularly where you identify the inaccuracies present in Altaf and Hali's book?
Okay, you're right. You see, much ink has been expended over Sir Syed's writing and Sir Syed's biography, and Sir Syed over the years is a much talked about author. You see, in India and Pakistan and everywhere where the renaissance of Muslims and subcontinent discussion is on, Sir Syed surfaces everywhere. But still, what I felt is there are so many other aspects of Sir Syed. Sir Syed's engagement with the collective life of India in different fields have not been documented yet. Sarfati is basically projected as a founder of Aligarh Muslim University and the person who set reforms in motion in subcontinent. But apart from that, Sir Syed, I think, has much more to explore. There are so many things that are to be explored. So, but the point is that I think, the most authentic and comprehensive biography still eludes us. No doubt, Sir Syed's first authentic and comprehensive biography is Hayat Javed, and we owe much to Hali. In order to understand Sir Syed, one has to go through Hayat Javed time and again. But as far as you see, the book was published in 1901 after Sir Syed's death. Before that, another short biography was published in 1885 by Colonel Graham. So, but as far as this book is concerned, yes, it generated a discourse on Sir Syed, seminal discourse on Sir Syed. But as far as the accuracies are concerned, there are many. Sir Syed Halis faltered on many counts. I will give you the specific example as far as the personal biography or personal details are concerned. I think Sir Syed Hali was not prudent enough to cross-check the various things. For example, Hali wrote that the Safayyad's ancestor migrated to India during the time of Shah Jahan. And but the Graham, whose book was published in 1885, and it was reviewed in Sir Syed's bilingual newspaper, that was the Legal Institute Gazette. And it was mentioned that Sir Syed's ancestor migrated to India during the time of Aurangzeb. So there are two ways, and Kshatriya reviewed it. He didn't question it. But these are the two, you can say, the two evidences are there. When I was working on the project, then I just concentrated Kshatriya's own writing. You see, in 1886, 1860, Kshatriya published a journal. Three issues were published. Land Movements of India, Risala, Kharfan, and Musalman. In the first issue, he discussed about the people who were with the Britishers. They just supported Britishers. So in first issues, he just talked about his family. The first line says, my ancestor migrated during the time of Jalaluddin Akbar. So they are you see, the very glaring kind of thing, though it is very insignificant. But as far as the biography is concerned, you have to be very careful. But still, both Sir Syed and Hali and Colonel Graham, they have not given any historical evidence. Then I consulted various books, and especially a book written by Aligarh University's known professor, Professor Athar Ali, who wrote a book on early Mughals. Then Sir Syed mentioned the name Dost Muhammad. I think he was fifth generation. Sir Syed's, I think, forefathers were. He mentioned the name of Dost Muhammad. So Dost Muhammad was there when the Aurangzeb conquered Deccan. He was there, he was Panch Hazari Mansabdar, the one thing. And the second thing is that his father's name, Hali, mentioned everywhere in India and Pakistan. All the texts books says that the name of Sir Syed's name of Sir Syed's father was Mir. Uh, uh, um, his name began with the Mir. And Mir, you see, it is not, Mir is a respectable word, isn't it? Like a title. So Mir can never be part of, a name, like a Mister. So Sir Syed mentioned it, and the name of the his sister Safiyatul Nisa, Hali mentioned it time and again. But Sir Syed mentioned in his letter, I just produced that in my book, that his name was Safiyatul Nisa. This is the one part. And the so many other things Sir Syed mentioned. Even in Sir Syed mentioned so many, you can say, facts that are not verified. For example, Sir Syed wrote a biography of his grandfather. His name was Khwaja Fariduddin. Khwaja Fariduddin, Sir Syed wrote that he spent 7 years in Calcutta, and he was the first. He was the superintendent of Madrasa Aliyah, and he was a British or company's diplomat in Awa. Awa is the, you see, the old name of Burma. When I searched, then I found nobody was there in the name of Khwaja Faruddin was there in Madarse Aliyah at no point of time. I just went through a history written by Sadar Mudarris Abdul Sattar Sahib. He said Sir Syed mentioned the name of his grandfather, that he was there for 7 years, and the period he mentioned at that time another, even the nomenclature superintendent was not there, and that time the first person, the, you can say, head mudarris was someone else. And I just searched British reports and British companion book published by the Cambridge. It listed all the diplomats worked in Burma, and no mention was made. And when, in which year Satya started his career, again it was highly faltered. And one thing is that very famous in history, as a student of history of journalism, so Hali says that Sir Syed's brother started an akhbar, newspaper that was known as Sayyidul Akhbar, and in 1838. That was, Sir Syed was the first. Sir Syed learned the art of journalism from this newspaper, and he said he was very affectionate to his younger brother. That's why he just named Sayyidul Akhbar, means the name after Sir Syed. Then I questioned. I said, Syed is a family name. Sir Syed's name was Ahmad, and his name was Muhammad, isn't it? If it is Ahmadul Akhbar, it would have been all right. But it's a family name. He was Syed, and so was Sir Syed. So was his father, and the one. And 1838, I just checked with the library, and at that time there was a DPI, Director of Public Instruction, like Registrar of Newspaper or something like that. So I just said that at that time Kempson was the Director of Public Instruction. I just went through his report. Then 1838 report says all the newspapers published from Delhi, even the name of Sayyidul Akhbar was not there. And 1888, 1838, 1839, 1840, 1841, it was there that the newspaper is published. Newspaper is publishing, and I think its circulation is 35 copies. In 1831, 1841, Sir Syed joined in 1839. Sir Syed joined the British Judicial Service, and he was posted in Agra, isn't it? My question is, though the report did not mention when the newspaper was started, but what was the proof? Proof was not there. So it's this sort of mistakes. There are so many mistakes were there, isn't it? And about the newspaper, he said the Aligarh Institute that everybody talks about is published in two languages, English and Urdu. When I searched, then I found that it is I think the first multilingual newspaper of the country. It used to publish material in Persian, Arabic, English, and Hindi, English and Urdu. So it is a multilingual newspaper. There are many things were there. So these are the some, I think, glaring things as far as personal details are concerned. It's not authentic one. Yes.
Okay. What specific factors shaped Sir Syed Ahmad Khan's beliefs during his uh, early time period? For instance, during his Wahhabi upbringing, and how did his views evolve over the time, especially in areas such as the content and medium of instruction, the secular nature of education, and then the loyalty to the British?
Yes, again, it is a good question. Before I just answer your question, first to understand Sir Syed, one has to understand one thing. You see, if you just look up the history of Muslims lived in the subcontinent, Muslim, ruled over 1,000 years, isn't it? And Shah, Shah Waliullah and so many Akabrins were there, so many ulmas were there, but Sir Sayyid faced a new challenge. What was the new challenge? And he just evolved a new strategy. What was the new strategy? Before Sir Sayyid, it didn't happen. What the point? The point is, before British took over, there was a Muslim ruler. Muslims were not in majority in India, but at least they have a Muslim ruler. But for the first time, Shafii realized that now the Muslims, they have to learn in a country where they are not in majority, and even the ruler did not belong to a Muslim. So how to live in that kind of atmosphere? So he just evolved a new strategy. How to evolve a new strategy? He just started. I would think he just intervened in various ways. First, at that time, in 1857, after that, the civil society was coming up. There were so many new institutions. After 1857, 3 universities were set up, and so many new things were coming up. So Sir Sayyid, I would say that he had to act like a public intellectual. Means he has to write, and he has to guide people in all walks of life. So what he did, he just started two journals. One was Aligarh Institute Ghazal in 1886, and after that, Aligarh, that was the Tehzeeb Akhlaq. And the Hali mentioned Tehzeeb Akhlaq is the one thing that everybody talks about. When you talk about Tehzeeb Akhlaq, Hali wrote that the Sir Sayyid went to England in 1869 and 1870. He spent 7 months there. Then he saw a Spectator and Tatler. Then he modeled his journal on that. Sir Sayyid was not good at English. He knew a bit. So but when the Sir Sayyid visited England, you see, a Spectator was shut down 150 years ago. So was Tatler. So there was a gap between 150 years. Sir Sayyid was not good at reading English. He could understand a bit. So that it was just misnomer. You say he might have heard but Sir Sayyid I'm afraid he had been to a library, but I don't think he consulted a Spectator and Tatler. That's a different thing. Again, this misconception is there. When we talk about Tehzeeb Akhlaq, in the same breath we refer to Spectator and Tatler. That was historically is not proved. Though Sir Sayyid himself, one I think here mentioned. So Sir Sayyid started two journals. Then he just set up another organization, that was known as Scientific Society, to translate important books, English books, into Urdu. Then he was instrumental in setting up native reading society, and native reading club, and public speaking. So he just tried to create awareness of all sorts. As far as the Wahhabi movement is concerned, yes, Sir Sayyid was greatly influenced by Wahhabi movement. And earlier, but he wrote that he was you see, after in 1886, or later on, when there was a Wahhabis persecution were on, Sir Sayyid resisted, and he wrote articles in support of Wahhabis. Inayat Ali and many, he wrote, I think, four or five, I think 4-part article in Parier. So he defended. But the point, as far as he knew that, but he knew what bidat and this thing. Sir Sayyid was very radical in his religious views. So that's why, as far as the purity of religion is concerned, he was somewhat committed to that. But the point Sir Sayyid made, then later on he just realized that Sir Sayyid wrote, I am Sayyid. Martyrdom has inspired me all the time. But we know what happened. 1757. That was Sirajud-Dowlah defeated. So we have already exhausted before that. There was the Wahhabi movement, and Balakot, Shaheed were there. They know what was the result of this hostility, or you can say the violent protest. He said it is not the way. Sir Sayyid wrote that मैं सैयद हूँ, सैयद शहादत को खेल समझते हैं. है ना? मेरे हिस्से
Yes.
में तकलीद हुसैन नहीं, तकलीद हसन आई, isn't it? This is what he said. He just mended his ways and he said, no, it is a time for reconciliation. We have to seek cooperation or some compromise with the British in order to conquer them, and just it is like that. Then first he was, I guess you are right, first he was a votary of Urdu medium. He made several representation to British government to start schools in Urdu medium. Then afterward he realized, no, English is the key to success. If you want to understand, then earlier he was of the view that so much time is spent in learning an alien language. If you and I is exposed to our mother tongue, we can learn things very easily. But in order to understand a language, first we learn. So much precious time is wasted. But later on, he just said, no, it has to be English medium school that are to be set up.
Okay. In your book, you dedicated a chapter on Sir Syed Khan's attitude toward women and women education. Can you provide some specific insights into whether his abstention from supporting women education on modern lines was attributed to his personal conservatism or strategic motives?
As far as Sathya's attitude related to female education is concerned, I would certainly say it's very disappointing. Yes, it is the point where Satya faltered all through. He was a votary of tutor-based home education. Time and again he wrote that what was his aim. He said his arguments were different. He was, you can say, he has got some feudal mindset, but apart from that, the narrative propagated by Gail Menu and David Lelywild and many, they saying he was against the female education. And when another person, Mumtaz Ali, Maulana Mumtaz Ali, wrote a book, Talim and Islam. Then Talim and Mumtaz Ali's books, Sayyid Mumtaz Ali's books, who was the father of the person who wrote Anarkali, Imtiaz Ali Taj's father, Mumtaz Ali, belonged to Lahore. He published a book, Talim and Islam. Then first it was mentioned by David Lelywild and Gail Menu. They said first it was mentioned by the person who composed the Tarana of Pakistan, Hafiz Jalandhari. Hafiz Jalandhari wrote that once he was a close friend of Imtiaz Ali Khan. He used to go to his place time and again. He said once Mumtaz Ali told me that I wrote a book, Hukuk and Niswa, and I presented a manuscript to Sir Syed. Sir Syed was furious. He lost all his temper and he tore apart the book and threw it to the dustbin. When the Sir Syed was having lunch, I went there and collected papers and got it published. So Sir Syed was was furious at the attempt to write something in favor of women and their rights. This was and it was propagated by many. That is presented as a clinching proof. Sir Syed's apathy towards insensitivity to women's plight. This is one area. When I searched, then I find this, yes, Hafiz Jalandhari did right. But the point is, so many other evidences were there. At that time, Sir Syed's two contemporaries were there. One is RBT, who has written Mir Vilayat Hussain, and Sheikh Abdullah, who founded this. Abdullah Khan is not Sheikh Abdullah of Kashmir. The two other persons, they wrote the same thing. He said, no. Mumtaz Ali wrote a brief note on women education. They did not like it, but it is not true. And the point is, again, that Mohammadi Begum is his wife, Mumtaz Ali's wife, started a journal and for ladies. And he said, I'm starting a journal for ladies, and he wrote to Sir Syed. Mumtaz Ali wrote to Sir Syed, and Sir Syed suggested the name Tahzib al-Islam. So, and even his biography, even his book, it was not mentioned that the book was torn apart by the Sir Syed. It was never mentioned. The only verbal, anecdotal, you can see evidence was provided by the Hafiz Jalandhari. This apart, so I just contested. I said in my book I think I have written, I think, more than 100 pages on this aspect. I cut all the evidence But as far as Sir Syed is concerned, Sir Syed was for tutor-based home education. What was his intention? And in one of his very famous book called Risalas Bab Bagawat, he spelled out what are the causes. One of the causes he mentioned that British government started co-education school, and it was against the Indian ethos. It was not the Sir Syed at the time, very famous Hindi writer and thinker Babu Harishchandra, Bhartendu Harishchandra, to explain the same way. He said that was the, because why? What was his argument? He said if you start co-education, then the girls, they start education quite late, at 8 years or 9 years, and up to high school. They if you start they started studying together. Then after 1 year or 2 years, they the puberty age. There was period, and they will not come to school. So there will be shame or something like that. It should not be there. He said that was the only reason. And he said he referred to a book, Education for Single Sex. So that was, and he said that and he just he wrote that if the schools are set up for women, then the girls, they are more intelligent, they will learn very easily. Then the Muslim boys, they are very lazy, they won't study. Then how they will get married? So the institution of marriage will be collapsed. So on this count, he just objected to it. That's why I'm saying, he said no, no. And the Sir Syed made a very, you can say, commonsensical argument. At that time, even the Muslim boys were not prepared to study. So there is no way you can compel women to understand to study. He said, अभी जब मर्दों की तालीम नहीं हो रही तो औरत की तालीम कैसी होगी, है ना? It cannot be. First, the Muslim boys, the first get them educated, then it will be a door of education will be open on Muslim women. So it was a very faulty argument, because you see, whenever you do reform, take the example of Islam or take the example of Russian Revolution, everywhere, take the example of Cultural Revolution. Islam जो है हमेशा एक साथ होती है. It has to be simultaneous. You cannot single out. You cannot demarcate that now it is turned for middle-aged people, it is turned for say young, it is turned for women, it is turned for girls. It is not like that. It has to be simultaneous, and Sir Syed faltered on that count. This is the one way. And the another way of Sir Syed's attitude you can also understand. I refer to a book. You see, Sir Syed was in England for I think 1869 and 70. He spent 17 months there, isn't it? Before Sir Syed, so many Muslim travelers, they had been to England. That is a very famous one, Yusuf Khan Kambal Posh, Ajaibat Faraq, edited by Tahsin Faraqi, the very well-known scholar of Pakistan. Tahsin Faraqi edited it, and Talib Amli and 5 or 6 the Muslim travelers, they went to England. What they wrote about England, they were just their book, their travelogues are full with the promiscuity of British women. What they were saying the naked legs of British women. They always talk about they are very flirt, they are very promiscuous, and they were the women of easy virtue. And what the Sir Syed did, when the Sir Syed landed in Paris, he went to a shop to buy a cap. He was there, then he saw a girl, 15-year, 16-year-old girl was there, and she was, in real sense, she was polyglot. She knew English, French, German, and Latin. So Sir Syed was absolutely delighted. So he spent, I just discussed that, he was there for 17 months. Whenever he saw empowered lady, he always talked about. He never talked about their promiscuity. You see, 2 maid servants were there. They used to come and they used to read books and newspaper. He talked about how enlightened they are. So it was the another side of male gaze. He just subverted or appended the male gaze, the Muslim gaze, or how you look at. If you just look up, it looks like they were just promiscuity all around. They are very indiscreet in establishing relation, in having relation with number of people. But Sir Syed was against that. So what the point I was just making is that he stood for empowered ladies. He just said this kind of ladies they can put so Nawab Sultan Jahan Begum to shame. So this is the Sir Syed's argument. But as far as the education is concerned, he was very selective, and I would say it was feudal mind setup. His views are somewhat very, I would say, disappointing.
Okay. What was Satyendra Khan's views on Indian National Congress in 1885, specifically addressing his initial opposition to the Congress and later his perspectives on the idea of Muslims maintaining a degree of aloofness from the politics?
Yes, yeah, again, it is, I think, a controversial point and a very valid one. Safiyat attitudes towards Congress is concerned. You see, there are so many. First, I would discuss the Safiyat concept of, say, nation. You know, Qawm. That was the only point I think you can. Safiyat was a man of contradiction, isn't it? Like a human being, you do everything very meticulously, but your phone is ringing, you are not picking it up. So it means man like us, Syed was man of contradiction. So his concept of nation, sometimes he referred to geographical area, sometimes he refers nation used as a synonym of community, isn't it? One he talked about हिंदुस्तान में रहने वाला हर आदमी जो है वो हिंदू है, isn't it? जो हिंदू और हिंदुस्तानी means Hindu Muslim means geography and geographical entity. This he talks about, and one place he said before the prophet nation was formed on the basis of language. Urdu बोलने वाला है कौन, isn't it? Or geographical area, in area which you live in. But when the prophet came and then now the कौम कैसे बनेगी? कौम की बुनियाद ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह की बुनियाद पे है. एक कौम जो ला इलाहा कह रही, दूसरी कौम ला इलाहा नहीं कह रही. This is what Sayyid wrote. And he also said that हिंदुस्तान में रहने वाला हर आदमी हिंदू है और हिंदू मुस्लिम दो आंखें. These are the so many views are there. And you can't say that is only the final truth. You see, India we say something different, and some other people, some Francis Robinson, who wrote Muslim separatism among Muslim, he talked about so many things. So it is a controversial issue. As far as this Congress position is concerned, I think it is a Muslim. It was not Muslim response. It was the response of elite class. You see, Sir Syed founded this British Patriotic Association, you know, and two organizations he set up. Sir Syed was secretary. President was Maharaja Banaras and Munshi Naval Kishore. So it was not typical Muslim response. And you see, Sir Syed, if you just take it for a while, then Sir Syed is good for Muslims. This is one reason, and you can quote Sir Syed so many times, and you can draw this conclusion. Though it may be true, it may not be true. But I will be giving you another example. When the 1884, 1886 Royal Public Service Commission was set up, Sir Syed was one of its members. What he did, he just made two demands. He said that the ISIS examination should be held in Delhi, in India. At that time, Calcutta was the capital. It should be held in India, and the entry age was 21 years. After high school, one can join this ICS. That was the only thing, because they said that now the Indians they start education quite late. So here there is no question of Hindu and Muslim, isn't it? He talked about that the entry age must be raised and the examination should be held simultaneously. 2 points, and these are the two demands. When the Congress was set up, it was Surendra Banerjee and Hume. They demanded the same way. Sir Syed was wary of Congress. Why? Because he said that the Muslims they have suffered enough. If they just took up politics instead of just concentrating on zeroing in on education, that would be disastrous. So in order to save them, he said that is the only way. First, you get yourself fully educated, then you can join politics. But Sir Syed's response, I would again say, it was not only Muslim response, isn't it? That was a collective response by the elites. So many Hindus were there, isn't it? So was Sir Syed. So Sir Syed, yes, stood against Congress, and he just took up the gauntlet for British, and he said, no, no, we have to side with British because they are the saviors. He said like that, and he opposed the direct franchise or direct vote. In 1883 there was a move that maybe the one-to-one vote would be there. There was a direct franchise would be there. Then the Safed opposed it. On what count? He said India was a nation in the making. Muslim, they will vote for Muslim, and Hindu, they will vote for Hindus. If it is so, then the Muslims will certainly lag behind. There were only 20%, 25%, 30%, then the no Muslim would be elected. So he said at least 30% seats be reserved for Muslims. So direct vote or something, you can say he opposed, because that was the only reason. He said, no, we are not, you can say, intellectually strong. We are swayed by our emotions, isn't it? So many things are there, religious affiliations are there. So that's why, so Sarsier was basically concerned with the fate of Muslims and Indians as well. He just want that there will be chaos if the Britishers, if you just start a movement against them, there will be chaos. Then who will be the sufferer? The most vulnerable were Muslims. So that's why he opposed Congress on this count. But the demand Congress made, two demands I just referred to. It was Sir Syed who first voiced it.
Okay.
And as far as the Muslim identity is concerned, I'm afraid Sir Syed, I'm just a student of Sir Syed studies. I never saw word Ummah in his writing. He never used word Ummah all through his writing. He said the Indonesian Islam is quite different from Indian Islam. He wrote in favor of Khadi, Misr and Afghanistan and Turkey. There was a war. He just wrote. But this is the point he made. No, no, it is not like that. That was why he wrote against the Jamaluddin Afghani. Jamaluddin Afghani was a pan-Islamist, isn't it? And there was a correspondence between him and Sir Syed and Jamaluddin Afghani. So he never used the word Ummah in all his writing. I'm afraid I have not seen like that. So that's why the Muslim identity, the marker of identity, the identity politics, Sir Syed was very wary of it.
Okay. My last question to you is, in your exploration of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan's life, what were the major research gaps you encountered, and are there areas that you believe require further scholarly attention and investigation?